From Evoke Media, I'm Sabrina Mirage Naeem. With me is Cassia Binkowski, and this is Breaking Glass, a series of conversations with women around the world who are shattering glass ceilings and challenging social norms. They are audacious, gutsy, and their stories are echoed across borders and generations in a rallying cry that is changing the narrative for women everywhere. Today's conversation is with best-selling author, speaker, and women's advocate Meredith Fineman. Meredith is the author of Brag Better and the founder of FinePoint, a leadership and communications company that elevates individuals at all levels of their career. We're talking about women's struggle with self-confidence and more specifically, how we too often fail to promote ourselves professionally. Meredith has coined the term Brag Better, and she's refined her expertise helping women build the skills to promote their accomplishments in a way that can advance their careers.
Sabrina, I just want to reiterate what you said about skills. The conversation with Meredith really drove home the fact that self-promotion is in fact a skill that any woman can build, and she shares some of those concrete tactics with us today. Regardless of where in the world you're tuning in from, Meredith reminds us that we're not alone. Breaking better is something that so many women struggle with, including those at the top of their industries, but that shouldn't prevent any of us from shortchanging our own accomplishments. Take a listen.
So the theme of our conversation today is why it's important for women to brag better, which is something that you have focused much of your career on now and is the name of your book. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the cultural norms as it relates to self-promotion of women, the expectations in terms of career, and why it is so difficult for women to properly promote themselves and their achievements in the same way as men. So just as a background, you're a speaker, a best-selling author, an entrepreneur, a woman's advocate. Your writing has been featured in the Harvard Business Review, Inc., Forbes, Entrepreneur, Marie Claire, Elle, among others. So you're pretty much out there in terms of, the message that you're trying to relay. And where we want to start the conversation really is, where did your interest in communication stem from? And when did you decide to focus that effort on helping women promote themselves?
Absolutely. So yes, the book is Brag Better. The better part of the past decade has been teaching people, not only women, though a lot of my focus is on women. My audience is the qualified quiet, people that have done the work but don't know how to talk about it. That is without gender, but I wanted everyone to be able to absorb the materials, but it obviously skews a lot towards women and affects women very differently. My interest in communications has been present for a very, very long time. And so I am the daughter of a journalist and a former journalist, the granddaughter of an English professor and a writing and English teacher, and the granddaughter of an advertising executive.
So it's in your blood.
Yeah. So our family business is words, I guess I would say.
I love that. Were there relationships with particularly strong women that really inspired your own self-confidence? I guess I'm curious kind of who nurtured both the pride and the poise that you have to be comfortable doing something that so many women are not.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I get the confidence question a lot. I am a pretty confident person now. I certainly wasn't always that confident, but I was never afraid in the verbalizing department. I might have not been confident, but that was never displayed in the way that I spoke or I wasn't afraid to talk about things or ask questions or contribute. I have a very vocal mother. I talk a lot in the book about, parents or guardians or people that are large influences in your life when you're young and how you see, the expression of voice. I think that definitely certainly has something to do with it. I never felt in any kind of way silenced, at least verbally, at all. So I think that had a tremendous impact on me. But some of it's related to confidence, but it's, you can still be a person who is not confident and still not stop talking. I think the interplay of those is really interesting. And particularly with these ideas, I mean, I've been working on the book Brag Better since about 2013, and trying to convince people that it mattered and why it mattered. And the book came out in June of 2020, and I get so many messages about like, where has this book been? It's like, well, it's been me yelling into the abyss about how people need this book, and this skill set and how it's very different. People have said, oh, well, we have the confidence code, we have lean in. I'm like, well, let me tell you why this is distinctly different from that. In fact, they are so different, it's not even comparable.
I'd like to hear a little bit more in terms of, I mean, you have your company Fine Point where you're helping people with their communication strategies, and you wrote the book, and a lot of it was really focused on women. And we're going to talk about the cultural dilemma around that in a second. But why is it different than what is out there already?
I really cared that Brag Better be deeply rooted in tactics. It's a strategic communications book, and it is a skill you can learn. That is the basis of this book, that your work stating, bragging is stating facts. That is it. And you need to state them to the right people so that they can advance your career and so you can get what you want. And at its core, it is an instructive, skill-based, case study-based, interview-based book that I want to be very careful not to tell people what to feel, and instead tell them what to do, because I believe that the former just creates more anxiety and the latter actually works.
Okay, I just have to interject here really quickly because you just stated something so eloquently. You said bragging is just stating the facts. Two things. One, I don't think I've ever heard it stated so simply. And secondly, I don't know how it sits with me yet. To be honest, when I think of bragging, I jump straight to ego.
Yes, I completely agree. And I go through the same thought process, honestly. But Meredith, I love what you're saying about the qualified quiet. I hear that and think, okay, yes, I'm like that. And so are most of the women who surround me, not because they're not strong, not because they're not accomplished women, right? Mainly because we haven't been trained or prepared to properly talk about it and talk about our accomplishments. And I hear what you're saying, that it's not gender specific, but I do think, and it sounds to me like you've experienced this, that it is more prevalent culturally and societally among women.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's not close. That's not a question. I just didn't want my book also. I mean, again, you want it to have the largest audience possible. And I was very careful. Sometimes, I mean, we have a lot of issues around women and thought leadership. And, you'll notice, and I have some amazing friends that have thought a lot about these topics, why we don't call women geniuses, why we don't call women visionaries. And I was very careful that the second you say something is for women, it is diminished, and that is just more of patriarchy. But yes, it is, for so many reasons, significantly more difficult for women, significantly more difficult for anyone who is not white and male. So that can mean men of color. Then you have racism and sexism for women of color, gender expression and identity, I should say, cis white men, is certainly more difficult. It's not a question.
Let's just underscore that statement for a second. You're saying that bragging, promoting yourself, is significantly more difficult for anyone who isn't a cis white man. And I think at this point, it's safe to expand upon that and say most things in life are significantly more difficult for anyone who isn't a cis white man. That's just the world we're living in.
Yeah, so I talk about, bragging is so difficult for everyone. You're so not alone. It's what I do for a living. But it's specifically difficult for women because positive attributes historically for women were associated with passive behaviors, particularly around voice. So she was demure, she was shy, she was coy. All of those things were seen as deeply sexy, attractive, alluring. But they also meant that a woman did not speak. And was just, seen and not heard, which is a deep part of a lot of people's struggle with bragging better, is in some ways, particularly women, told to be seen and not heard.